Greetings, friends from around the world, wherever you are, whoever you are, you're more than welcome. This is the Witching Hour in Bali, Indonesia. I'll be joining my good friends on the other side of the waters imminently. I'm going to introduce to this rapid-fire 1-hour broadcast the maestro himself, the one who needs little to no introduction, Robert David Steele. How are you, sir, today?
Working for you, I think.
Robert, I can see that the cabinets behind you have finally been moved away. Where are you situated?
Well, I'm moving to Atlanta on the 1st of May. My wife will renovate the basement while I'm on tour. And I'm just very excited, Sacha. All the bills are paid for this month. And I think we're going places, literally.
We're definitely going places, Robert. And I don't know from your end, but since we made some just peremptory announcements, we've received literally thousands of messages of goodwill and support. I know that Trent and Scott and the other core members of this team who are going to be lighting a fire in and around Middle America from mid-May, kicking off mid-May, all the way through to September. Honestly, I'm not the best traveled rock and roll touring artist in the world, but I did 10 years of wielding guitars. And I can tell you, this is an incredible tour. No one chooses to uproot themselves from family for 3.5 months unless there is some serious fire in the belly. Why did you determine that we needed to do it at this time before I bring in the second most powerful man in the United States?
Richard Mack. I say he's the second most important person in America after President Donald Trump. This tour came to me. I mean, it's not something I was planning to do. I certainly wasn't planning to do something at this scale. But between talking to people like Juan Osavin and others, including yourself and the glorious Leigh Dundas, it just came. I mean, literally, it's almost like divine inspiration. It's certainly not Robert Steele doing magic. This is someone else using Robert Steele for good ends.
It is, Robert. It is, Robert. And it's also something which we're seeing now lighting up countries all around the world. Were it not for that insidious apparatus called mainstream media, we would be seeing nothing but uprising around the world.
Well, we have two uprisings going on right now in England and somewhere else. People are mobbing the streets, they're mass burnings. Let me just say to you that the tour is 111 days because that's what it had to be in order to stop every 4 to 5 hours and honor the people across the United States of America. We're hitting every single one of the 50 states, possibly excluding Hawaii if they're still stupid about COVID. But we're hitting every one of the 50 states. We're respecting the diversity of the regions, and we're making sure we have 84 stops. And at every single stop, we will give it our all with a combination of the permanent party plus drop-ins plus locals. This is going to be the great conversation that resurrects America.
Quite so, and by extension, the rest of the world, not forgetting that America is the world and leads the world. Fact. Let's bring in the man himself, Sheriff Mack.
Thanks, Sacha.
Good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's a great day for freedom.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you for that eagle perched on your shoulder. It gives some of us tremendous solace to know that you've got an eagle perched on your shoulder. Sheriff Mack, 3 reasons why America and the world needs a resurrection tour.
Well, we've been sliding quite rapidly into socialism and communism, and we need to get back to our Constitution. We need government to get back to its proper role in protecting rights. Government is not here. I don't care if it's Timbuktu, somewhere in Europe. I don't care where it is. Government's role in every country in the world, I don't care if it's Red China, Russia, United States, their role is to serve the people. And the best way that any government can serve its people is to protect their rights, to protect the precious gift of liberty. If we in America can get back to our foundation and set the example for the rest of the world that we will honor, sustain, and preserve the United States Constitution and thereby preserving God-given liberty, I believe that we can set the stage for the rest of the world to follow. Just as you said, what happens in America goes across the world. And so if we can get Canada and Australia and England to focus on civil liberties and civil rights, and yes, a la Martin Luther King and a la Gandhi and Rosa Parks, and I always used their stories in my presentation, but we have got to return to those basic fundamental principles that made America great and restore our Constitution as the supreme law of the land, and get the people working with local officials to take back America county by county, sheriff by sheriff, and state by state. I don't believe this tour is going to do anything to change Washington, D.C., but it can change county by county, state by state. And I believe we can take America back in that regard, in that manner. That's why I'm sold on this. I know Robert, and I know most everybody on this panel. And if we can do that, take that simple step to remind everyone in America that this is still the United States of America, our Constitution is still standing, and we must raise our title of liberty, known as our Constitution, so that we can take America back in a peaceful and effective manner.
Beautifully stated. And, as a lawman of the highest exemplary pedigree, I'm assuming you're not a gambling man. But if you were a gambling man, what percentile would you give Middle America today in respect of how many people in the great land would back constitutional counties and constitutional sheriffs, given a true consensus?
I really think it's a third. John Adams wrote in his letters to his wife that those who supported the Revolutionary Wars, those who supported the cause of liberty, were 1/3. Those who could care less, were completely apathetic, was another third. And then those that continued to support King George III and the crown and tyranny was another third. So I believe that we can definitely do this with the third, just as the Revolutionary War taught us. It happened with 1/3 of the people supporting the cause of liberty. Not all of them were fighting. Many people helped in their communities, and they weren't physically fighting. But I hope that there's no more physical fighting. We've got to denounce violence. We've got to set the example for that also. And anybody who is protesting is within their right. Anybody who's committing acts of violence is a criminal and should be prosecuted.
Yep.
So I really think it's a simple process as that, and I hope that is exactly what we achieve.
Beautiful. Thank you kindly. Sheriff Mack, I'm going to bring in next one of our great compatriots, Scott McKay, patriot, street fighter, very accomplished man, a man I've been looking forward to hanging out with, preferably on a Harley. Well, we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure that my international license translates to the United States, Scott, but I'm not sure that really matters, given that licenses are, and Richard Mack, you can turn your volume down while I say this, but licenses are all part of the corporation bullshit. Scott McKay, welcome.
If you're gonna throw those Cupid heart platitudes at me about Harley Davidsons, we're already brothers, my friend. So it's gonna be that's gonna be a wonderful time. So yeah, it's great to be here, guys. I'm totally honored, rarefied air. I finally got a chance to meet you, Sacha. I've had RDS as one of my heroes for quite some time, and Sheriff Mack. Been able to get him on the show too. And following up on the heels of what the sheriff said, the simple fact is this: we have to get people on the battlefield, and that's really what this is. This is, people don't understand in this country, this is war. This is asymmetric warfare. This is information warfare. This is the platform I started well over a year ago, going right after this Khazarian mafia, this global criminal empire. And I can tell you, I didn't know where it would land. I just was going to do something that would help me soothe my soul. not sit back anymore and watch this country burn there by the world. And I can tell you, when I was in Tulsa last weekend, that to me was the most stunning response I could have ever imagined, because we had probably about 1,500 Patriot Street Fighters in that place wearing their Patriot Street Fighter gear. I was mobbed the entire weekend. I saw two speakers the entire weekend. I saw two. That was Mike Adams and Lynn Wood. The rest of the time, I was signing, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of hats, autographs, whatever, and thousands of photographs. And that was my entire weekend. And I had enough interaction with these people to learn that this message works, because from the people who are taking groups of people to their state capitals on weekends, protesting, people that are running for school boards, people that are running for mayorships, one running for Congress, to Bill Timpson out in Missouri, who came out of retirement after 25 years as a deputy sheriff in Palm Beach County. Now heard this guy constantly talking about, you got to get into the fight. He came out of retirement and is now a police chief in his area in Missouri. I heard this all weekend. I walked away not inspired, but with a supreme belief that we are going to take this fight to the local levels, and we're going to get our counties back. We're going to get them back in the school board level, in the city council level, right through the mayorships, and every other piece of the architecture leading us up to the federal government. And I'm talking state legislatures too. And I do agree, we can't do anything about the federal government. That is a crime syndicate. It's where the criminal empire is rooted in this entire operation. We can't deal with that, at least in a sense that we can at the county level. But when we bring the masses of people right back to the heart of America, and we teach them, like Dr. Gordy Williams has been doing this in California, showing people how to get involved, how, a bullet list to get active, to go after all of these scumbags, these people who are wrecking society from the school boards on up. We have what it takes to bring this back. And when I said to RDS and I talked about this, when this thing starts, it's not going to be taking territory back in an arithmetic fashion. It's like anything else. Once you hit that 4% critical mass number, it becomes a geometric explosion. We don't have as much work to do as it may look like. It's just bringing a massive counterweight to this criminal empire with we the people. And I think this summer, having the ability to extend that reach across the country, I have so much coming at me right now. Enthusiasm from these Patriot Street Fighters everywhere that are excited about this tour. They're totally excited about it. The validation was last weekend. That's all they talked about. They can't wait for this tour. And again, a lot of our bikers around the country, they're all orchestrating. They want to ride. They want to be on Harley Davidsons, Patriot Street Fighter riders. I'm expecting a huge success just from what I've heard. I'm expecting a huge success. So the groundwork that you guys have laid, you and RDS have laid for this, I think it's going to pay dividends far beyond what you might have even imagined coming out of the gate.
Beautiful, Scott. And just a quick question. I see that the Tomahawk has recently been replaced with a Constitution. Can you just speak to that briefly before I bring other guests in?
Well, the Tomahawk here, when this kind of came as we built this Patriot Street Fighter brand, all by accident, just kind of having fun. When the Tomahawk became a symbolic piece, the handle, which you can see in the handle, says "We the People." It's kind of hard to read there, but when we were doing the brand image, I said that handle needs to be the rolled up Constitution. And so there were two pieces. I said, take this handle out, put in the rolled up Constitution, and that's what it became. So now, obviously, this looks a little bit different than a rolled up Constitution, but the message to the criminal empire is this, and this is kind of just the reflection in honor of my Native American heritage. This is actually a peace pipe. That's what this is. It's a real peace pipe. So we will offer the criminals peace. We will smoke the peace pipe with them if they're willing to put down the corruption, walk away, and let the good people in to start cleaning this up. And if they choose not to, then we have only one other option, and that option is whatever it appears to be.
Thank you.
But we are going to change the dynamic in this country.
Scott, that is the language. You're offering absolution. You're offering redemption. That is the Christed aspect of who we are as good people of the land. Absolutely right, Robert.
A very quick comment. Sheriff Richard Mack, the second most important man in America, did not even mention that he founded the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, that the sheriff, the elected sheriff, is the highest law enforcement officer in any given county. The sheriff can deputize the posse, and there is no federal or state or even local police force that can stand up against the legally elected sheriff who has deputized all of the veterans, black, white, brown, yellow, of every color. We all bleed red. So sheriffs are our final line of defense against tyranny.
Beautiful, quite so. Thank you. So Scott, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And just the caveat to that, you are offering redemption and absolution. And I think that's the diplomatic and right thing to do. But where that does not prevail, we pick up pots and pans like good people to protect the elderly, protect the weak, protect the vulnerable, and protect the infirm, and then protect ourselves, whatever it takes. I'm going to bring on Leigh Dundas, who is tearing it up right now in the United States. And what a voice. This is one woman I would hate to have on the wrong side of the table. Leigh, you are an absolute force to be reckoned with. I hope you can hear us. We can't see you, but you're in the broadcast now. Okay, that's definitely not going to work momentarily. She's having a hard time getting in from her car. I'm going to bring in another one of our key speakers, Kevin Jenkins. Kevin Jenkins, are you there?
I'm here.
Good stuff. Okay, Kevin is a public speaker and a transformational executive with an impressive track record, and he's leading the charge at Urban Global Health Alliance, the CEO, founder, and at Freedom Travel Alliance as the CMO founder. Kevin is a lifelong champion for human rights in the Black community, and as the founder of Urban Global Health Alliance, he shows his dedication to these rights. The mission of UGHA is to educate, empower, and release urban communities and their leaders from decades of indoctrination and suppression, and to create effective public policy which safeguards the rights of equality. Kevin, you are very welcome, brother.
Thank you very much, Sacha. I got to tell you, the world's on fire. I was just down in Tulsa too. I was speaking there about, building a bridge to the future, not their future, but our future. And it was a powerful, powerful, powerful event. But I got to tell you another thing, Sacha. The Rise Tour has started so many other tours. Angela Stanton King is doing the Real Talk Tour, going into all Black communities, having a real direct conversation about body sovereignty and talking about what it means to be free. You got Dr. Michelle Gamble, who watches you. Now she's going into other communities and duplicating this and going in and trying to change the culture of health, not just in the Black community, but all across America. But I'm excited because this is the time that we've been waiting for. This is a year of action. This is a year of knocking down the doors. I think that Sheriff Mack was absolutely spot on when he said we have to go at the local level. That's where the tyranny is going to take over if we don't really back them in a corner and change. What I believe is if we don't change, the humanity that we love today will not be available for us tomorrow. So we are very, really excited about it. So I'm going to be joining you on every one of those days that I can around the country. I can't wait to meet my friend, Robert. And I got to tell you, this is our defining moment. This is our defining time. And
Yes,
if
sir.
we don't fight for this, we won't have anything left. It's really about fighting and pushing back, but doing it and creating the right alignment, breaking down those barriers. This is not about race. This is about humanity. This is not about race. This is about values, family values, community values, religious values, what this country was built on. And that's the message that we're going to be sending all around the country. And at Freedom Airway, if you can understand that, we said we're going to create our own travel apparatus. We're going to create our own ability to live off grid. So we're working tireless every day to take the positive actions that I believe that will not create the old normal, but create a bright future for our communities, for our children. This is what this is about. It's about our legacy. It's about our children. It's about what I think Sheriff Mack mentioned, Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman. Those people crossed the river to fight against all of the injustice for all of us so we can all be free. And that's the thing that's motivating me to move all around this country. I'm not going to be home. Listen, Sacha, I'm going to be in Connecticut tomorrow, Maine the next day, Las Vegas the next day, then going over to Colorado the next day. And I'm going to be everywhere in America on top of your tour, talking about how do we come together as a country? How do we not allow them to create this wedge against us? How do we protect the true values of what this country was built on? And guess what? I think that's the thing that they don't want to happen. They don't want
Kevin, that was my next question to you was to what, can you please speak to the degree to which the weaponization of this racial divisiveness is being calculated and engineered, and whether it's Capitol Hill or the Crown of England or the Vatican is immaterial. It's a globalist conspiracy, and it's playing out in aspects of Middle America. Can you speak to that momentarily?
Well, it's the greatest maximum sophisticated confusion ever done in the last several decades, because what they're saying to Black Americans, we've victimized you with these negative public policies from the left for 50 years. We've never really addressed it. You're trapped in poverty. You still have failing schools. You still have a failing infrastructure in your city. But the worst part of it is you've had Black Americans running the majority of those cities. I live in one of those cities. I fought against that for many, many decades. So what they do is, racism is connected to victimhood. And when you continue to promote that, it's giving people the illusion that some white guy outside of the gate is coming here trying to take whatever you have left, when in fact you don't have much at all, because you wholesaled your power to other groups of people that have developed their wealth and their mechanism for growth, and you're still trapped here. So what they're saying, hey, look, white America, look, Black America, I should say, we're not the bad guys. The global tyrants are the bad guys. The ones that's taking everything are not the bad guys. But those white people over there that are fighting for their country, fighting for their square, fighting for their children, oh, those are the bad guys. So we want you to fight those guys while we take everything from both groups. And that's the con job that's going on now. And so that's why we got to break that wedge. We got to talk about that. And the people that are doing it mostly, forget about the liberal part of the country that's doing it and their ideology, but you have Black Americans race hustling in their communities that keep us trapped from talking about the things that we need to really be focused on. That means family, faith, freedom, capital, growth, ownership, love, all of the things that Martin Luther King was talking about, Frederick Douglass was talking about, Marcus Garvey was talking about. They were talking about, how do we build a better nation? How do we grow a better nation? How do we move past the atrocities to build a better country? So this is the thing. What we have to do is keep saying it. It's not about race. It is about humanity.
Thank you. Beautiful. So that you've just underscored one of the central tenets of this tour. I'm going to bring in, I was just about to bring in the maestro, Trent Loos, but I'm not sure. Let me see if he's a bit gone dark on the screen there. One moment. Let me just see if Trent, can you hear me? Okay, Robert, over to you while I try and get him back on.
Very, very quickly. Not only do I love Kevin, he's so articulate and he's so right on that. It's not just not about race. It's also not about the two political parties that have sold us out to the deep state. The Democratic and Republican parties have sold us out at the federal, state, and local levels. We need to return to people, not parties. This tour originally started as #unrig election reform, and it was very quickly complemented by constitutional sheriffs, by faith, family, and freedom, by patriot street fighters. I'm very much hoping that our Native American forebears, we put Geronimo and Sitting Bull above Mount Rushmore, which is 6 white guys. We got to get away from the white guys. I want a Black guy. Like Clarence Thomas should be the next Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, in my view. So I want to tell people this is about uniting the 99% against the 1%. And it's particularly about returning power to the 80% of Americans that are disenfranchised by the two-party tyranny.
Thanks, Robert. Beautifully stated as usual. I'm going to break this little dude fest here and bring in a roaring goddess in the shape of Dr. Rima E. Leibau, who is a medical director of the Natural Solutions Foundation. And she and her late husband, Major General Albert Stubblebine III of the U.S. Army, founded that organization in 2004 to derail the globalist agenda, depopulation, and the enslavement agenda, now manifesting quite openly in front of all of us. The foundation that she and Albert founded is dedicated to the important concept that every free person has the right to control what happens to his or her body. 101. Exercising the right of informed consent and the right to clean air, water, and food, along with information and access to the means for natural health. Dr. Rima graduated from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in 1970, and the Natural Solution Foundation initiated the U.S. Accountability Project, which is focused on reining in the overreach of the two most intrusive and dangerous agencies of the United States government. Now, I wonder out there, do you know which those agencies might be? It's irrefutable. IRS, FDA. The FDA and the IRS, both agencies weaponized and operating outside of their legislative and constitutional remit, and must be restrained now, today, from their dangerous, oppressive, and illegal, politically and pharmaceutically biased actions. Dr. Rima Leibau, you're very welcome. Oh, unmute your microphone. There we go. I've done it for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, let me say how deeply honored I am to be among such luminaries who understand the principle of freedom. And thank you so much, Sacha, for asking me and the Natural Solutions Foundation to be a part of what we're doing, which is taking back our freedom. The most essential freedom that we have is sovereignty over our own bodies. Who controls what goes into, what does not go into, what must not go into, what may not go into my body controls me. Either I am a free human being who makes those decisions for myself, or I am a slave. It's binary. It's that simple. And at this point, in addition to the political issues and the racial issues, and by the way, it's not about race and it's not about politics. It's about dominion over our essential human essence, our essential human central portion, which at this point is our DNA, which at this point is our past, our present, and our future, because that is the central battleground. All these other battlegrounds that we're hearing about are indeed active battlegrounds. But at the moment, this COVID and vaccination, quote, quote, atrocity is about literally capturing and turning against ourselves our immune systems and our genetic central core. Now, it can't get any more basic than that. And that's what the battle is for. Everything else supports this oppression or supports this liberation and resurrection. There's no middle ground. You are either willing to be enslaved and or dead, or you are not, and you are forced into a position of taking back your body, your family, your community, your school board, your county, your state, your country, your world. There's no intermediate position. I happen to be one of the few people who is simultaneously being attacked by both the FDA and the IRS because I speak freedom, truth. And they don't like that. In fact, the FDA is suing the Natural Solutions Foundation and me and the co-trustee, Ralph Fusatola, for the alleged crime of revealing such things as U.S. government research showing that nanosilver makes it impossible for, in this case, a hemorrhagic virus like Ebola to attach, penetrate, or replicate in a cell. They don't want you to know that. And so that's a crime. That's a crime to release research. The IRS says, I owe them $3.5 million. Of course I don't. These are political tactics to keep us from being free. And yes, the U.S. Accountability Project is designed to control them. But the essential issue beyond that right now, to control every unit of our own freedom domain, starting with our body.
Good stuff. Thank you, Rima. I want to revert a little bit later to you, but I desperately want to get Maestro Trent whilst we've got him. Trent, welcome.
It's not been a good internet day at this moment.
Okay, it's not a great internet day today. Can you hear us okay? Okay, it looks as though Trent is in his car somewhere. Forgive me, I've muted some of you to see if we could hear him. Leigh Dundas, I think we're also having difficulties. I'm going to try one more time to bring her in. Leigh, can you hear us now? I don't believe she can. I'm bringing in Scotty Sachs. Are you there? Okay. Guys, we're having some real fun. Robert, questions for any of our panel thus far?
I think we're doing as good as we can, and I think the big question everybody's waiting to have answered is when are we going to start releasing the names of the people that are going to be appearing on each stage together with the permanent party? So I'm very excited by your plan to start rolling out publicity on the 1st of May. And the guy that just got knocked off is a huge, good publicist. And I'll just say what he would have said, which is we're going to ignore the mainstream media. We're going to go for the local media, and we're going to do a lot of radio.
Good. And yeah, we're starting the campaign on the 1st of May. And the idea is that because we've got hundreds of speakers, influencers, icons, advocates, people who are focused on analytics, stats, truth, disclosure, the whole gamut. This has to be alpha omega. We get one shot at this. This is the cavalry in that sense. And it's made up by the pulse of Middle America. It has to be made up by the pulse of Middle America. We've got many thousands of people on. I've got 2,500 people just on this room, which means we've got probably closer to 10,000 watching live. And those numbers will grow tenfold in the next few hours, guaranteed. Robert, let's speak quite unabashedly right now to the logistics of what we're doing. This costs money. I don't rattle cans. I haven't done for 23 years with Humanitad Foundation, the New Earth, the University, the International Tribunal. I don't rattle cans. I'm rattling cans for this tour. Speak to us about the logistics and the hard costs.
Well, I have been absolutely stunned to raise $559,000, and I've spent all of it. In fact, I'm $37,000 in the hole now. But at bigbatusa.org, there's a funding page that accounts in detail for every penny that I've spent. For example, we've already paid over $180,000 for $5 million buses, coaches. We've paid $47,000 for the wraps. We've paid $50,000 and another $60,000 for 2 technical things. I just did a $57,000 deposit for 50% of the stage, the audio, and a generator so that we can do these things out in open fields. We are paying people to manage the websites, the emails, the certificates, every donor of $100 to $110. And we use the 100, 101 is Michael Jaco, and then 2, 3, 4, 107 is Juan Savin, and then you've got state assemblies, American Patriots, and Digital Soldiers. So we're only asking for one $100 donation. We will never ask for a second donation. We need to raise $250,000 in the next 30 days. But the big bills are paid through the 1st of June. However, we don't have enough money to compensate people that are actually doing this, including people like Trent Loos, who has to hire someone to replace himself on the farm. And other people like Leigh Dundas are giving up major paying gigs in order to be on the tour. So bottom line, folks, is if you want this tour to be a complete success, we need your donations now as the tour is starting. And I would be very glad to see a spike come out of this show. This is a We the People tour. It is not being funded by sponsors, although we did get a couple of $50,000 donations, and I'm grateful for them. But this is about We the People paying for what is in essence a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational tour that shows the people that between constitutional sheriffs and election reform and blacks and whites coming together and the populist left, the populist right, independents, libertarians coming together, we can take the power back. Join the fight. Ride for the USA. bigbatusa.org. That's all I can do as one man.
Beautiful, Robert. Beautifully stated. Thank you very much. Just to underscore, I had Leigh Dundas on. I saw her beautiful blonde face, her blonde hair, and the camera went off. So she's obviously having difficulties getting on. But let me just underscore again what Robert just said. Hitherto, Whenever we're looking over the horizon to be rescued from tyranny, we're looking for a cavalry. And the cavalry normally arrives. That's the hero's story. The cavalry usually arrives. But here's the thing. The cavalry normally belong to another prince or duke or king coming in to again gain supremacy and dominion over we the people. This cavalry must be funded by you. It must be funded by me, each of us. So people, make it happen. Make it happen. I'm going to ask, Scotty Sachs has joined us. Tell me you can hear us now, Scotty.
I hear you, Sacha.
Good. Scotty is our communications maestro, freshly plucked from Hollywood. We forgive you for your Hollywood pedigree in media and communications. We forgive you here, and we welcome you. How are you?
Doing well, Sacha. Greetings from the beautiful port city of Puerto Mexico.
So, Scotty, you're going to be helping to syndicate the media and handle the publicity. You've got some pretty nifty plans for us, and you're going to be with us for the duration over the next 4 months. Anything you want to speak to right now? This is just a mustering call to some of our ground crew. This particular broadcast, I'm going to be doing a deep dive with you within a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about the broader scope of media engagement and how you are the man to force the alt media into the mainframe. That wasn't good timing because he just popped off. Richard, you're back. You're back in the frame. Do you want to speak to anything you've heard from the talking heads? Oh, we'll need to unmute your mic there. Sorry, Sheriff Mack. There we go.
Okay.
There we
go. I really think that coming together as a country, and that we need various races at our events so that all of us can dispel the lies about that we should be divided some reason because of race or religions. I think it's vital that we explain to the world and to our own country that corruption is dividing us, and that we need to stay together as Americans. Doesn't matter what color we are. I agree with Kevin that it's about humanity. It's not about race. We're all the same in God's eyes. And as far as the Constitution is concerned, we are likewise. All men are created equal. Yes, I'll be happy to say women. All men and women are created equal. I really believe that. And if there's anything that should be bringing us together, it's the principles of liberty that we all want to enjoy for ourselves and our families. Therefore, the Bill of Rights would be the one document, and the 28 principles that are expressed in the Bill of Rights would be the principles that we all agree on that brings us together. I don't think there's any way that we can ignore those principles and still pretend that there's a way that we can come together. Those must be respected by us all. We don't have to agree with them all, but we must agree that we will respect them. I know people who don't want to own a gun. That's fine. You don't have to, but you still need to respect my right to do so. I don't like some of the speech from some of the groups that are out there in the country, especially politicians, but I will fight and die for their right to say it and their right to be wrong. We must respect that. We must respect freedom of religion. We can never be in the position of saying, well, we get to suspend the Constitution because there's a crisis. And if that is the case, then how many of us, Democrats, Republicans, everybody in this country, how many of you would have signed up to be in the American country, the American view? How many of us would have signed up to be Americans if we were told by our leaders, yes, we will protect your civil rights, we will protect your liberty, but not if there's a crisis. We can suspend all your liberties, we can suspend your Constitution, and we can suspend peace and tranquility and everything that you do in life, even suspend how you conduct church or have Thanksgiving with your family. We can suspend all that. No, there is no exemption or exception to liberty, and we must all come together on that. And that's really what I hope this tour also accomplishes.
Indeed. And it's not just, I mean, they're also overstepping any mandate that may have been given or perceived to have been given to federal authorities or any kind of government authority by infracting and infringing against health sovereignty. I mean, that to me is the crux of the matter with what's happening with this COVID corona monstrosity. I mean, there's multiple stories that are threaded within it. Is it, does it exist, doesn't exist? You know, all the rest of it is neither here nor there. But when you've got statutory legislation coming in, forcing us to hide in homes, effectively under house arrest or kidnapped, essentially, and masked against sunlight and against oxygen, now we're getting into the violation of the right to life. This is desperately serious stuff. Forget the Geneva Convention for a moment. That was also made up by men. Forget the Nuremberg Code for a moment. That was made up by men. Forget the European Council resolution recently that forbade all of this nonsense that's going on throughout the European contracts. That was also made up by men. But the right to life, damn right you need your gun. Damn right you need your gun. Thank you for making that comment, because it's an important one. And in this new era of liberal intellectualism, you know, we're not supposed to say things like that, Sheriff Mack. We're supposed to all roll over on our backs and do as we're told and shuffle along. And another point, obviously, I don't need to educate anyone on this panel, but these crises that are engineered that then allow the status quo to leer into our lives and say, you see, you can't be trusted with toys. I mean, it's the sheer depravity and the cynicism of the state and the crown interests that are such an abhorrence to good people of the land.
Amen.
Right. Robert, any comments before I bring Scott back on? And then I'm going to be bringing our other I can't see. Leigh is back with us, I think. Let me just see if she can now hear us. Leigh, can you hear us now? Okay, this is very unfortunate because she's certainly trying. She's on tour at the moment, I think. Carry on, Robert.
It is unfortunate. Let me say that Leigh and I just talked on the phone, and she's having the same trouble that Trent Loos is having. But one of the exciting things is that Leigh has developed a conversation with the guy that sponsored the Tucson show and is sponsoring a show in Tampa the 17th through the 19th of June. And I see real synergy between the Tucson, Tampa big events in major cities, which is like a conventional military campaign. And then our caravan of 4 coaches is like a guerrilla campaign, driving into the heartland and actually reaching people in small towns and having that conversation of humans talking to humans. So the two are going to complement each other. And Leigh Dundas, who I always add an S to her name because I think of her as Leigh Badass, but she is one of the most powerful, dynamic women I've ever met, similar to Kevin Jenkins, who I can already see has got to be core for this thing. So let me just say, I'm nothing without all of you. I absolutely believe that God's hand is on this. I believe that we need to mobilize, and I particularly love the Black church because the Bonhoeffer talked about the joy and lift your voice kind of joy of the Black church. I think the Black church and the white church need to come together, and we need to take our country back, and we need to be America the beautiful, one nation under God, indivisible. And we do that by bringing together the populist right, the populist left, the libertarians, the independents, and we will welcome the Greens Constitution and others. But the bottom line is everybody who's been shut out by the two-party tyranny, get in the fight.
Well stated. I'm going to try finally to bring Scott Stacks in. Are you with me, Scotty?
I am here, Sacha. Good to be back.
Whilst we've got you, Scotty, I was just saying before you fell off the line that you are the one man, certainly who I believe can create the bridge between the alt media that we've got a hell of a lot of influence across anyway. I mean, between Sheriff Richard Mack and Scott, the Patriot, Street Fighter, Kevin Jenkins, Robert David Steele, Rima Leibau. We've all got a fair bit of influence. How do you intend to bring that alt media presence into the mainstream in the next 3.5 months, 4 months?
Sacha, I agree with Sheriff Mack and Scott McKay. This is about taking our country back county by county, state by state. So while we will target some national and even some international media, we are going to focus on the local media in the 84 cities that the tour will stop. We will work with the local TV, radio stations, the mainstream media, newspapers. Look, I believe there's a lot of people hanging in mainstream media still that will receive this message well. So our focus will be, just as we will take this country back, city by city, state by state, we'll focus our public relations and media efforts on the local TV and radio stations, the local newspapers, really get some coverage through the mainstream media, force them to pay attention to this event. Sacha, this event has bigger production value than an NFL football game. You have 16 cameras and a drone aerial, and let me tell you, the NFL spends millions of dollars per game to pull off events like this, and you're doing 84 cities, and we believe the event deserves to be covered in the mainstream media, and we will work with the local mainstream media. After 40 years inside the industry, I can tell you they're ready for this. They're breaking down. Many of them are coming across our side. I can tell you many who work in the mainstream media want to leave the industry and come over to our side, and we are going to be the mainstream media in short order.
Okay, sweet words, very gratefully received, and I think we all more or less agree with that sentiment. I'm going to bring in Caroline Chang, who is production manager, anchoring a hell of a lot of work right now for this motley crew. Caroline, your beautiful face and your presence is always greatly welcomed here. You've just done a big summit yesterday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I want to just comment on what Robert said about this being divine, because I don't know if Robert's aware of it, but I had the same vision given to me by God, higher self, spirit, whatever name people want to call your inner being, gave me the vision of this tour in January of this year before I ever heard of Robert Steele or Sacha Stone. So it is totally, completely, 100% divine. In divine order, this tour is to unite the country and the world. This I know in my heart and soul. Yes, I took part in a summit yesterday that will be airing in June, and it is the Common Sense Summit. I love the name of it. It's just common sense, and I truly believe people that are not brainwashed, mind controlled, and hypnotized by mainstream media can use their common sense to see what is truly right in front of them. But I do believe that the mainstream media and all that propaganda is so powerful that it hypnotizes and it brainwashes people where they can't even use their common sense. So yes, this summit is awesome. There are a lot of people like Ty and Charlene Bollinger, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Judy Mikovits. You and Robert will also be joining this summit. It's a great summit that will be airing in June while we're on the tour. So we can, be sharing this summit while we're out there on the road. So,
indeed. So let's just underscore that. So we are taking, as Scotty Sachs just said, a lot of cameras. God knows we've got Scott McKay, one of the loudest voices in the land, who's going to be blaring from his quarter and syndicating from his quarter. But we've got a lot of cameras aimed on this tour. There's going to be a lot of vox pops meeting a lot of influencers. And really, for me, the exciting thing about this tour is that I believe it is the first time, probably in history, it's a bit of a grandiose claim, probably the first time in history that such a comprehensive pulse of Middle America is going to be taken, a litmus. We're going to have this conversation together. I'm the outsider, simply helping to guide, process, and document this thing, and do a bit of rah-rah here and there. But I, as the world looking into this, to America, to the pulse of America, want to understand that song, the song in the pulse of America, because that's the song that is going to lead all of us to hallelujah. And I'll tell you, the whole world knows that roundabout now. Whether you're talking to someone in Mozambique or Bolivia or Myanmar, everyone is looking to America for obvious reasons. America is the chosen land in many respects. It has also been weaponized and cult programmed more than any other country. It is also the most extraordinary pantheon of talent and skill and stamina. So let's see what that conversation is, and let's make it matter. I'm going to wind this broadcast up shortly, but I want to bring Scott McKay in for any last reflections, Scott, and on what's been said in the last hour, last reflections before we close. Sorry, brother, you'll need to unmute. I can do it from here. There we go. We're good? Yep. So I'm energized by it's first chance I have had to meet a number of you, including you, Sacha. I'm all I can say is we're on the same page, and what's going to happen on this tour. This is going to be the game changer in the country, and I don't mean maybe. This is going to happen. This is real. This is happening. The talent that you've put together here, these people that have this kind of focus and this kind of mission focus. That one factor that all these movements lack is a mission focus where people are unified on the same page. They're bringing the same message. We see the problem as the same thing. We've got to unite the country. We've got to get people over this idea that skin color matters or the socioeconomic demographic is something that separates us, that all that stuff matters. At the end of the day, I believe when we're done, including the Native American people in this country, at the end of the day, we're Americans, period. And Reagan said it best. He said, we have every right to dream heroic dreams. After all, we are Americans. And that's the message that I see all of us collectively taking to this country, is that we are Americans, and anybody who is not working for the benefit of humanity are not Americans. These are people that are serving a different master, this Khazarian cabal. And so, as I said many times, Robert wants to get rid of the two-party system. Right now, the two-party system, in my eyes, is them, Washington, D.C., and their elite controllers, and we, the people. Those are the parties. So we, the people, are going to become the dominant force throughout the course of this summer and this year with all the events that are going to happen during this. The other patriots that are putting on their events, there's a collective, unified movement, a full battlefront moving against this power structure. I don't see how they can win. And when we're done, I just see the energy in this country is going to go stratospheric, because I've experienced a small sample of this in Tulsa, and it is real and it's happening. And I'm completely excited about where we're going with this thing. Beautiful. Thank you, Scott. And, as Ben Fulford, a mutual friend of Robert's and mine, said from day one, beginning of last year, this is the blessing here that we're going through. This is a bloodless Armageddon. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. This is really where reason and the spiritual dimension and the fellowship and the spiritual morality of good people of the world is getting to its feet, and is beginning to stand up on two legs. And we're still being maligned. We're still being desecrated. We're still being butchered, and our spirit being sublimated. But nonetheless, that is the beauty of this strange time, this twilight zone that we've been traversing, certainly in the last year and a half of planetary lockdown. And as Scott quite rightly keeps referring to the Khazarian aspect, we are talking about an engineered hard demolition. Actually, it's a soft demolition, technically, of the global economy. That's serious potatoes, folks. That's livelihood. That's food on the table. So forget college fees. There's no such thing to many people now. We've been wiped out, even here in the Southeast Asian archipelagos, going down the high street in a town in the middle of a jungle, a town which was thriving a year ago, thriving. Everyone is bankrupted. maybe 85% of all stores and shops closed down. Everyone hiding, everyone rolling up their sleeves, everyone waiting for the sound of jackboots. This is not why we came to this world, all of us. Not one of us steered our souls into this world for this reason. We're all enjoined as a fellowship of good humans to underscore that and to bring the fire to the citadel. Kevin Jenkins, sir, kindly your last reflections before we wind up. Forgive me, Kevin, you are muted. I'll unmute you. Carry on. I'll do it from here.
You just nailed it, Sacha. You just nailed it. But here's the question. MLK said something many decades ago. We have to choose between chaos and community. What are we going to choose? Are we going to choose our community, bringing our communities together to build a better country, or we're going to allow this global chaos to wipe us out? That's our choice. Are we going to fight for that? Are we going to take action for that? Or are we going to fight for our body sovereignty? Or are we going to fight for our children? Or are we going to allow this chaos, this global chaos, to wipe us out? At the end of the day, that's why this tour is so important. We need to be asking that question. What is the defining question? Do you want that life for yourself where God doesn't matter? Do you want that life for yourself where country doesn't matter? Do you want that life for yourself where they want to control even your breath, even how you finance your life? Or do you want the community that is free? Now we have to question, do we really understand what freedom is? And do we really understand the freedom we want? Basic questions. This tour is about asking that question. What do you want? Do you want to be free, or do you want to be a slave?
Beautiful. Thank you, Kevin. Rima, I'm going to ask you for your last sentiments and speak momentarily to the spiritual warfare element of what we're going through.
Every single aspect, from the molecular to the macro, is under exactly the same attack. Whatever you care about, whether it's constitutional or health-related or the future of your families, everything needs to be defended against exactly the same globalist orchestrated attack. How wonderful, because there's nothing that you can say doesn't matter here. Whatever is important to you is the place where you need to become a warrior to preserve humanity, community, and spirituality. Otherwise, there's nothing left.
God bless you, Rima. We can't wait to have you on our stage whenever we're passing your neck of the woods. Thank you. I'm going to introduce finally, I pass the baton on to Robert David Steele, the second most powerful, more important man in the United States. Richard Mack. I don't hate you every time it's said by Robert, but there you have it. People do believe, Sheriff Mack, that you're important for the signal reason that you represent an ideal that unifies the conscience and the consciousness and the indomitable spirit of Middle America. You represent that. You are the archetype. You're thoroughly deserving of the moniker, in my view. Your last reflections, please.
That always gets me a little bit embarrassed when I hear that. But I feel just like Robert. I'm doing exactly what I've been called to do. If it were up to me, I'd move to Hawaii and just live out my days with my wife. But it's too far away from grandkids. But we hope that they'll come and visit us every other month. But that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I will admit that we're part of a solution that is peaceful and effective, and there's not very many of those. So I think it is quite unique in the aspect of restoring liberty to America in a peaceful manner. And the CSPOA is not the important thing, but the results of the CSPOA is the important thing, or are the important thing. And I really feel that this has a lot of momentum, and I'm totally really willing to work with any other person, any other group that is all about a peaceful and effective and strong and bold solution for America.
Thank you, Sheriff Mack. Robert, last word to you, and I'll bring our four pretty faces on as you address many, many thousands of people out there, 3,000 alone on this channel. But that means there's a lot of people looking in, trust me, because we've got multiple, I think 9 channels. They're probably all the same. Last reflections, Robert.
Well, very briefly, Sacha, let me not only thank you, but emphasize your importance to this tour, because you are filming this tour and monitoring this tour and live streaming this tour to the rest of the world, as well as America first. This tour is about America first. It's not a Trump tour, it's a We the People tour. But obviously, President Trump is a very big looming presence for the good. I second Sheriff Mack's point about nonviolence. I would add what I have always talked about, which is truth and reconciliation. This is a nonviolent truth and reconciliation restoration of America the Beautiful. Localization is the opposite of globalization. And last but not least, this tour is not about platitudes. Even though we're saying faith, family, and freedom, this tour is about solutions. I wrote the original work on predicting revolution across all of the dimensions of society. I recently gave a speech, Earth 4.0, on how do we take back the power and create peace and prosperity for everybody at the local level. I was recommended for the Nobel Peace Prize, which is a discredited prize, but it was nice to be noticed because of my holistic analytics, true cost economics, and open source everything engineering. We can build a tractor for 1/10 of the cost of a John Deere tractor with no secret software. That's what America needs. That's what the rest of the world needs. So make no mistake about it, Sacha, your role here is as important as ours. You are our token foreigner, and we welcome you because this is really, really important. America first, but then Canada, then Australia, then the United Kingdom, then everywhere else. We are leading a charge for the world, not just for America first.
Beautifully stated. Thank you, Robert. Do recall, I grew up in a country called Rhodesia, which no longer exists. We lost it at the end of the war, so I became stateless many years ago. I belong to no one, which is why I'm perfectly suited to come as the fly on the wall and raise a bit of perfect hell. Robert, thank you for all you're doing. I know you're working 18 and a half to 19 hours a day, and that's because you're bitching on the end of a phone to me for that duration every day. And I know that Caroline is doing the same. We're all working overtime. This is an appeal, again, to the many, many thousands of people out there. I know that this is going to reach a hell of a lot of people in the next few days. Please help us make this happen. I am, yes, breaking with tradition and rattling a can and asking you, please lean into Robert David Steele's BigBatUSA.org. Do whatever you can. There is a lot of voluntary work that is also required where Trent Loos, sorry that he couldn't make it today. He was trying from his car. He had his cowboy hat on. I can vouchsafe it was him, but we lost him on the broadcast today. He'll definitely join us next week. But he's on the ground doing the ground locations. So contact BigBatUSA.org. That's your prime funnel right now. We will be opening up some other portals to create more flow of traffic in the days ahead. But right now, go to BigBatUSA.org. And where you can, friends, emphasis, Middle America, do donate to this. This seriously is worthy because, as I said earlier, Sheriff Mack, Scott McKay, Trent Loos, Leigh Dundas, Kevin Jenkins, these and Rima Leibau, these are the voices. This is the salvation. This is the redemption, people. It's not coming from Ezekiel's chariot. It's not coming from out there from a Pleiadian starship. It's happening here. And you must figure and factor into this. I'm speaking to every one of you listening out there. Please stand with us and make this tour happen. God bless you all. Kevin Jenkins, Rima Leibau, Caroline Chang, and Scotty Sachs. Thank you all very much for joining me today, and we'll see you on another broadcast leading up to the kickoff of the tour. God bless you all.